Nassau Mix.
The 90s, 2K, and today.
The Nassau Mix. The 90s. 2K. And today.
The Nassau Mix.
Listen weekdays. The voice of Nassau Community College. 90.3 WHPC.
.3 WHPC. Be listening to the Nassau Mix, by the way, here. The Nassau Morning Madhouse, weekdays, 9 a.m. right here on WHPC. A new show here, 5 days a week. Some good stuff. So right before us on Mondays, but all during the week, too, Monday through Friday. The Nassau Morning Madhouse right here on WHPC. And welcome to From the Pressbox. I am Rob Leonard. I'm co-hosting the show with my brother Tim, as we do every Monday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. We are coming close to our 3-year anniversary, which is in 2 weeks, by the way.
Woo!
Memorial Day weekend, 2014, we started the show. And just as a reminder, Tim, we have not missed a show yet.
Well, there was that one time when it was a blizzard.
Well, yeah, but that wasn't our fault. We would have been here. We were told not to.
I was ready.
I was ready, too, but they said, no, the school's closed.
They said the campus is closed. You can't educate the masses about sports.
Right. So there's so much to talk about. I would start with the Mets normally, but the Mets is such a depressing story.
No.
Let's go with a more uplifting story. Yesterday, the Yankees do what they do best, and that's do retirement, old-timers.
Win World Series?
No, they haven't won one in 9 years, Tim.
2009. That's not 9 years.
8 years, whatever.
Get the math together.
Okay. But they retired another number for the team. Now, numbers 1 through 10 are now gone. You can never wear them again. So, unless you wear a 0, I don't know if you know. Does anyone ever wear it?
I didn't look it up last night, but I was curious. I don't think anybody has ever worn 0 in Yankee history.
I don't think
I could be wrong about that, but
has anyone ever worn it as a regular player? I mean, non-Yankee?
People have worn 0. Like Oddibe McDowell famously wore number 0 because his nickname was O. So,
okay.
Because his name was Oddibe.
That makes sense.
But there have been some 0s in Major League Baseball, but none, as far as I know, for the Yankees.
Yeah, and it gets to the point where it's like, well, how many more people's numbers can you retire,
Well, it's going to be a while. I mean,
and for the Yankees, you're right, it's going to be at least 20 years till the next retirement number.
Well, I don't know about that, but
if
you look,
who else could you have?
If you look at who is around and who the possibilities are at this point, and the Facebook Live crowd can see my Derek Jeter T-shirt that I'm wearing today. Look at the current roster, and you can even look at rosters from the last few years. Who's a guy who has the longevity, who has the greatness to be considered? And there really isn't a guy. Brett Gardner is the longest tenured Yankee at this point, and. Right. As much as I like Gardy and he's a nice player, he's certainly not a candidate to have his number retired. I think the next couple of guys that you'd be looking at, depending on how their careers go, would be guys like Gary Sanchez or Aaron Judge, and obviously both of those.
Jacob? What about Jacob Ellsbury?
No, what, are you kidding? Seriously, where'd you even get that? First of all, his name is Jacoby, not even Jacob. But
I call him. I shortened it.
Yeah, I know, and I don't know why you do that.
That's why
stop doing that.
That's why I call you Tim instead of Timothy.
Yeah, okay. But you'd have to look at a guy like that because, for the most part, retired numbers are for career Yankees. And I say for the most part because Reggie Jackson's number is retired, and I still disagree with that because he played for the Yankees for 5 seasons.
And the last season wasn't that good.
Well, but that's my point.
But that was a George Steinbrenner thing.
But he was an iconic player, certainly. but he was not an iconic Yankee in that regard. 5 years. He played for how many different teams?
And he also, I think, when you think about Reggie, he had 2 great World Series. Let's be honest.
Of course,
but
that was Reggie. He was Mr. October.
This was a George Steinbrenner thing to Reggie because we all know he should have re-signed Reggie in 81 or 82.
Whatever year it was.
Whatever
It's
it was.
a long time ago.
Yeah, so I think that was part of it. But the rest of the numbers are okay. I have no problems with, Bernie Williams. Yeah, he belongs. He was a lifetime Yankee. So was
Core 5.
the core 5. Really, you have all these guys.
They can talk Core 4 all they want. It was really the Core 5.
Yeah.
And it's I know it doesn't rhyme and it doesn't sound as cool.
Yeah, I know.
But to not have Bernie be amongst that group is really doing a major disservice to Bernie. So, and Bernie last night got a huge ovation from the crowd. He's a guy who is undoubtedly an all-time great for the Yankees. And, does that make him a Hall of Famer? Not necessarily. But he was a guy who was one of the top players at his position.
I've told you there are 3 Yankees that you seem to disagree with me about that I think there should be Hall of Famers.
Who?
And that's Don Mattingly, Thurman Munson, and Bernie Williams.
I have long been made a case or tried to make a case for Thurman Munson. And just going by the criteria of dominant at his position. Right. Munson obviously the longevity test is an issue, and that's not even because of the plane crash, because he was declining in his skills and his physical abilities were declining.
He had he was MVP.
But when he died in the plane crash, his body was breaking down in a major way.
But catchers are judged a little bit differently.
But was he a dominant player at his position? Yes,
he was.
Because Carlton Fisk and Thurman Munson were the only 2 American League catchers back then. They were head and shoulders above the rest. And the only difference between Carlton Fisk and Thurman Munson is that Fisk somehow managed to play 20 years, which is unbelievable for a catcher, but obviously helped him build up his numbers to the point where he was Hall of Fame inductee.
And I still think Mattingly eventually will get in.
No, it's not going to happen.
It's
I think I would like to see him in because for a 6 or 7 year period, he was a dominant player in the major leagues.
I agree.
But then he hurt his back, and he had another 6 years where he was a very average player. And Yankee fans desperately wanted that Donnie baseball back.
He showed up yesterday too via video.
Via video,
the place went crazy.
Yeah, Yankee fans will always love Don Mattingly,
Yeah.
and it goes back to as far as retired numbers go, homegrown Yankees. Fans love homegrown players, especially Yankee fans, because that's how the teams, all of the legendary teams, that's how they were built. On guys like Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio,
that's too far back. But
those were the dynasties. Those were.
But I have to say, Gene Michael, when George was away, really did a great job building this team and building, this core of guys, and even if some were only there for a few years, they were definitely like a Paul O'Neill is a great example of someone,
Paul O'Neill is an example of a great trade, and that's how you build championship teams.
Right.
You get players like Paul O'Neill, Tino Martinez. You bring in pitchers like David Cohn. That's how you build a winner.
And David Cohn was a Met at one point.
Wow.
So let's
David
talk
Cohn
about
was a lot of guys for a moment. He was kind of a mercenary, but he was a great pitcher.
Let's actually talk about the retirement. I thought the speech itself was a little short and a little generic.
That's Derek Jeter.
I know that.
He didn't prepare anything. He said afterwards on ESPN, they had him on for one of the innings where Tanaka was getting pounded, so the interview went probably a lot longer than he thought it would. But he actually said he was hushing up his wife Hannah Jeter. Now she goes by Hannah Jeter. Used to be Hannah Davis, the Sports Illustrated swimsuit model. But he said he had to hush her up on the golf cart on the way in from center field from Monument Park because he was trying to figure out, all right, what do I need to say? I mean, I would like to think that he thought about it a little bit more before that, but he's kind of an off the cuff guy when it comes to making speeches.
And I know he's not known for his You covered him.
Yes.
You've been in the locker room.
He's
not known for his great quotes.
No, he's not. He's not a guy who is very quotable to the media. No. He's a great guy to have a conversation with because he really is funny.
Well,
but once he knows he's being quoted, it's the mask kind of comes on, and he's very cautious with his words. So
I was listening to,
that's what made him difficult.
I was listening to John Sterling and Susan Waldman.
John.
And they were talking about how he has a great sense of humor.
He does.
So
he does, but that was mostly reserved for his teammates and people inside the locker room once the media left. You know, and I'll share like a little humorous moment. And I'm trying to remember what season it was. I mean, it goes back to, I want to say maybe 2007 or so, because I was covering a game. It was early in the season, and I was covering the game because a kid from New Jersey, from Rutherford, New Jersey, was making a start for Oakland.
Right.
And it was maybe like 11 games into the season or something like that. And to that point, Jeter and Cano both had 11-game hitting streaks. Like they had both had a hit in each game of the season to start. And it was, I think, the record for team. I mean, it's just such a bizarre record. You know, like I don't even like using the word record to talk about it. But apparently, like only once in history had teammates hit in 12 consecutive games to open the season. Again, it's like a dubious record.
Right.
But Jeter looked at the guy who mentioned it to him, and I will say it wasn't me because it's really a ridiculous thing. But he looked at him, and the first thing he says, "What are you trying to jinx us?" So it was. I mean, it's not funny, but it's humorous, and it's an off-the-cuff comment
and
where
you don't expect it from him a lot.
Yeah, he let the guard down just a little bit.
He was a little protective, and now he has the Players Tribune, so the players could directly write. And respond instead of going through a reporter.
I tend to wonder how much the players actually write because most of those
stories.
Well, they write the basics. You know, but
they talk to some reporter
but there
who works there.
Yeah, there are writers writing those things.
For
yeah, because every one of those stories ends with some kind of an emotional, kind of almost tearjerker. I mean, there's definitely a formula as far as Players Tribune. I enjoy the Players Tribune. The times where I have read some of the stories, there have been stories that I had no interest in reading, but the stories that I've read. But typically, these stories end with some sort of an emotional play, or I mean, it's kind of become their standard.
So, what did you like about the whole proceedings yesterday?
I mean, like you said before, the Yankees do ceremonies as well as anybody.
Well, I have to say this just before you start. As I'm listening to this yesterday, and I didn't get to watch, I actually listened on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
I was reminded last year, the Mets handled their 30th anniversary of the last time they won the World Series.
Yes.
With the 86 team, which is still one of the great teams of all time. You know, they're still arrogant guys, let's be honest. You know, I love it.
Well, all you have to do is listen to Keith Hernandez in a booth every day.
That's right. And what bothered me about that was a Fox game, a 7 o'clock Fox game. They had the ceremonies like at 5:30 or 6 or something. And SNY didn't air it live.
Silly.
And they put it online. And then I don't think they re-showed it. I went looking for it. I don't remember re-showing it. Now, if you missed the Jeter thing, the Jeter retirement thing last night,
yes,
it is airing literally every hour on Yesterday.
As it should.
It is on every hour. I mean, except for a center stage with Derek Jeter.
Which I saw was from 2003.
Yeah,
I don't know if he did one after that, but
I think so.
I saw there was one from 2003
right, that's
that
the
they
one.
were broadcasting,
Right.
and it was so ridiculous looking.
So here the Mets, the last time they won a World Series, this team is still magical in many people's eyes, and they don't give the team the respect that the Yankees give to everyone in their history. Say what you want about the Yankees, they bring back everyone.
But you would think
You would expect Yogi Berra to show up if he could.
Yeah, he's dead.
I know that, but I'm surprised there wasn't some footage of Yogi talking about Jeter or something because he loved Jeter.
It wouldn't surprise me if they could have found something. But here's what bothers me about what you're talking about as far as the Mets go. This is a team that so desperately wants to be the Yankees. And I can say that about pretty much every team, all right? And I'm not saying that in an arrogant way, but the Yankees, obviously the most successful team in baseball, and it's by far. But for a team like the Mets, who don't have a lot of history and don't